All right, so we're going to go a little bit deep on this one, right? People get lots of things misunderstood because we always look at the headlines, we internalize the headline as if it's totally truth, and then we live with that in our minds and it affects our decision making. Then we think we know stuff because our brains processed it for such a long period of time. But actually it's just a headline and we didn't research it properly. And unfortunately, we live in a world where you can't really trust verbatim, word for word, what your elected leaders say or what's printed in a newspaper. You even have to look at the back of the ingredients of food, right? Because you can't trust what it looks like on the surface. You have to really read the back of it to make sure it's not just pumped full of loads of random stuff. Another thing that people get slightly wrong or misunderstood is when they think of Eastern philosophy, when they think of yoga, Buddhism, Tai Chi, or anything like that, they associate it with being spiritual and that it must have or be all about spirituality and an experience of spirituality. And often people discredit it because they're more focused on science. They believe in what science has to offer them. And it's a misunderstanding of Eastern approach because yoga, mindfulness, meditation, Buddhism, all of those approaches and more, they follow a scientific method. They've been developed over generations and generations, over thousands of years. With Tai Chi and yoga, people don't even know when it started properly, right? It's just a question mark. So that's a lot of human experience and a lot of science, meaning deliberate conscious experimentation that's measurable and that is also provable through real human experience and by therefore the testament of time. Nowadays, we've used modern science and laboratories in a way of being able to create an objective view of what's happening with that learning. You know, instead of trusting someone's inner experience, actually being able to look at it objectively. And they validated that Tai Chi does have all these amazing health benefits, so does yoga, so does meditation. And that's why, particularly in England, for example, you can get these things on the National Health Service if you have particular ailments. So a very big misconception of Eastern philosophy and Eastern approaches is that they're all wacky and spiritual. They're absolutely not. They definitely have a nature of spirituality in them because it is about connecting to a greater force, which again, modern science also agrees with, there being this greater force. But then their actual method is very scientific. There's an approach, there's steps, there's a hypothesis that you're testing to be true, and it lends itself to a real personal experience. And the reason why I was sort of grouping all these different things together is because prayer, meditation, mindfulness, they're all routes to the same destination. And they all create this sensation of oneness, this sensation of the body and the mind being in sync, being aligned. The very word yoga just means union. Do you see the commonality? And do you see how this can be so easily misunderstood if we don't spend the time to genuinely look into it and forget our preconceptions?